I think we make superheroes, you know. I think those men and women that come through our classes, they are the superheroes. When they leave, they're embracing solar, and they're out there to make a buck, save people money. They may not be saving the dolphins. That may not be what's foremost in their mind.
But you can't be everything to everyone, can you?
But gee, they are.
Yeah. Well, they actually are, aren't they? That's a good point.
So I reckon they're the superheroes. I'm the sidekick.
You're a sidekick?
Yeah.
What about Kaz? You're going to mention...
There's some superheroes in the office. Kaz runs the office.
Yeah.
Christina, Cherry, Patrick, Chris.
Yep.
They're superheroes. They make this machine work.
Yeah.
So I'm really appreciative of what they do. Kaz came from the health sector.
Yep.
And she embraced both sustainability and education and this business.
Yep.
And that was very foreign to her, you know, at the time, but she's certainly embraced it over the last 10, 15 years and you know what she does.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks, Kaz.
Absolutely, I do. It's quite amazing. I didn't know that about her. And it kind of doesn't surprise me. You can tell she's pretty extraordinary with all the things she can do and the way she comes across. Sort of, it reminds me a little bit of Christine Kennedy, who, you know, she was on the show a few weeks ago, come from a different industry and just sort of pick things up really quickly and really shone. So,
well, I'll tell you also, sustainability is something that most people have a warmth towards. No one really wants to destroy their planet. Nobody really wants to destroy their neighbourhood or their home or dump rubbish or do this or do that, you know? Most people innately are quite for sustainability.
Yep.
It just hasn't been sold well to the public over the years. It's not a greenie position. It's an everyday position for everyday people.
Yeah.
And once you get your head around some of the concepts of sustainability, like climate change, like waste management, like water conservation, land conservation, there's not many people that say no to any of that.
Yeah.
And so Kaz made a very easy transition from the health profession because it's human, it's community.
Yep. Yeah. Perfect. No, I think you summed that up really well from what I know of Kaz, and that's I think
Thanks.
No, perfect.
Thanks, mate.
All right, no, that's great. Well, I think it's time for our first ad break. When we come back, Steve, I want to have a bit more of a talk about the Solar Training Centre.
Sure.
And also a little bit about the future and what you think the training sector in solar sort of holds. I'm really interested to hear what you think about that.
Thank you. Are you going to play that rock out music again?
No, we've got... no, I don't. I've got an outro. No, the word from our sponsors, that's actually quite interesting if you listen.
Okay. I will.
Yeah, I'm not sure if the production that they've done is quite to the level of the intro musics. But look, it's community radio and we do thank them for what they've done.
Great job.
So, yeah, we'll hear from our sponsors and we'll be back in just a few moments. Okay, and we're back. Thank you very much to our sponsors. Very important for Radio Karam. Much appreciate what you do. So, Steve, we've had a little bit of a break and very interested to know a little bit about your Solar Training Centre and just a little bit more about the operations and how things work. So, first thing I want to discuss with you, or a question I have, is the location. So, you've got you started in Adelaide, and then you're doing stuff in Melbourne, obviously Brisbane and Darwin as well. What's behind the locations?
Okay, behind the locations is the concept that they have to be physical locations, that there has to be a place to actually go to learn, obviously classrooms and facilities, but also large practical workshops where the students, who are all electricians or engineers in this sector, will come and do their practical work.
Yep.
So all of our places are quite large. and can accommodate multiple groups as they're learning. The practical centres, the workshops have multiple, as you've seen, multiple inverters and roof mock-ups and battery systems and off-grid systems to strip down and build. So we're not looking at them, we're not pointing at them, we're not showing a video, we're not talking about them, we're actually doing it. We're building systems from scratch, we're commissioning, testing, fault finding, decommissioning, and analysing.
Yeah,
and the students love that approach.
I love the way you a workshop. Is it a workshop? Did you call it the workshop? What do you call it?
We call it the prac room.
The prac room. The prac room.
Yeah.
I was going to say, I love the way that's set up. You've got pretty much everything laid out really well. Lots of space there too.
Yeah.
And you've got all of the latest equipment, which is interesting as well.
So Pat, on that, like collaborations are key. There's something about our RTO that's from its inception is about collaborations with industry, industry relevance.
Yep.
And I'll make a point about this. Industry relevance. So our collaboration partners, and they represent a wide range of the industry. It could be Longi, it could be SMA, it could be Selectronic, it could be Phoenix, it could be Enphase, it could be Goodwe, it could be Power Plus. All of the brands that you know of, and some emerging as well, some newer ones, are there because they value the way we do our work. They trust us. I always say, thank you for trusting us for the work we do.
I've heard you say that a few times, actually.
It's a really big, it's a big deal for me. You trust me to do this. And I don't take it lightly. And so the students trust us. The students all, you think about the cost of coming to class, what that means in lost revenue for a week, what it means in fees and so on. It's a big commitment. So could you imagine them coming to a class where the trainer knows less? Or the trainer reads out of a book? Or the trainer shows a video? No, that doesn't happen around in my classes anywhere. Our trainers, key to what we do, our trainers must be current electricians. They must be solar qualified. They must be a registered teacher, and they must have their own solar business. When they're teaching current valid information, and the next week when they're not teaching, Pat, they're on a roof. They're building a battery. They're building an off-grid system. And that's what makes us very different in the marketplace.
Yeah, very interesting. And I can attest to that. That's just knowing. I can mention their names, can't I?
Yeah, sure. Their names? Absolutely.
Craig and Josh are the two I know reasonably well.
You got Fatakis in Melbourne
as well.
You got Joel up in Brisbane. You got Gary up in Brisbane. You got Mr. Cook in New South Wales. He's coming on new with us and doing really, really well. Andrew's just extraordinary to find a new trainer. In fact, this becomes one of our challenges at the same time as our success.
That's a great segue, Steve. I'll just hand over the hosting to you, mate. You've done beautifully well there. So let's talk about that. A challenge.
Let me interview you, Pat. All right.
Sure.
So where do you want to go from there, Pat? When are you going to become a trainer, Pat? That's what I need to know.
We've been speaking about this, haven't we?
Look, one of the challenges in the adult education sector is having quality trainers.
Yes.
And we try to recruit from the classrooms, and we support people through their training journey, through their qualification into the TAE, and so on. But let me tell you, boy, do we need more. The industry needs more trainers, and my company, my RTO, needs more trainers. And certainly, if anyone feels that they're at the top of their game, and they know what they're doing, we will help them become a high-quality trainer, as we've done with some in our group already. The other good thing is our trainers have been with us for 5, 6, 7 years. They don't turn over, thank goodness, because they trust what we do and we look after them. Actually, look at this. Plenty of Plenty of this in the classroom.
So can you tell me this? Okay, all right.
Plenty of this. Look at this.
Those of you who aren't watching on YouTube, might be on Spotify or SoundCloud or something. Steve actually turned up. Usually it's me turning up with some biscuits or whatever. Steve's come with some mini vanilla and strawberry cupcakes and then
muffins
and some noodles. Can you just what's going on?
It's one of our quirks. I reckon we go through a couple of thousand noodle cups a year, and I don't know how many hundreds and hundreds of muffin packs a year. I mean hundreds, because they're standard fare in every class. So the trainers smash them and the students smash them, and the word gets out. Hey, is this the RTO with the muffins and the noodle cups? And I say, yep, come on down. And you also
do when I've come down and spoken to the classes, there's always been a bammy roll. You found a good one in Springvale that's nice and fresh.
Look, yesterday's pizzas. Today I'm cooking a barbecue today. So you're coming around to a barbecue.
I am, yes.
And yes, we look after the students. It's if you're going to spend 5 days, you're going to spend 5 days in this place. I'm astounded that some RTOs wouldn't even put on tea and coffee. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
So we look after the students. We want them to go beyond the barbecue and the barmies.
Yeah.
And they do. They look at the quality training.
Yeah.
And remember, why do we do this? We do this so that those people get their accreditation and move on to develop their business, develop the industry, be compliant, be safe, and do the best job for the solar sector that they can.
Yeah.
That makes your job easier.
If I could have all of my installers doing compliant work, look, I must say my ones are quite good. I'm probably speaking more about Solar Vic Audits or CER because the ones I choose are quite good, and some of them have actually come from your classroom.
Oh, I hope so.
Yeah,
I hope
which
so.
have been really good.
Yeah. I hope so. So what? Let me ask you. What are some of the things that you see out and about that is that trend, that pattern in practice that you'd like to fix fairly quickly?
Oh, it comes in waves, to be honest. Look, I suppose at the moment, I'll probably slightly out of the trend at the moment because I've been doing a lot of schools, and a lot of them have been quite old systems. So at the moment, I'm seeing a lot of things like water getting in isolators, and other type of things from systems that tend to
the legacy systems,
that are being looked at now. Look, there's still, I mean, if you ask me that any other time, it's still the normal things like earthing. It's still, they're not quite getting that right. And probably just basic stuff, I think. I think the basic stuff is that's kind of the slightly frustrating things that where laziness kind of pops in a little bit. So where, you're talking like one screw for a tile foot when you require two. Those type of issues.
Well, look, the reason I ask that too is because, we take the industry feedback. We want that collaboration with industry, and we want to take that information and put it into practice.
Yep.
So I hope that you'd never see an issue like that coming out of my classroom or our graduates,
Yeah, for sure.
The opportunities. The other thing I'd like to focus on is, as you've mentioned, what you're looking in retrospect is the future and the future opportunities. We are building a workforce. We're giving young people an incredible opportunity. We're giving people an ability to develop their business, to employ good people. We want young people to come into the industry. A shout out to Alex and a bunch of other young people I've been speaking to recently, my son Alex, because there's so much opportunity across the sector.
Yeah.
And we're at this trade show the other day. And look how many new companies have come in and new brands have come in, and they need local support.
Yeah.
They need good local people.
Absolutely.
To work for them and with them.
Yeah, no, that's true. That's a good perspective. That's quite interesting.
And you got kids coming through. You've got kids coming through too, and they may well look at this industry and say, "Hey, there's a place for me in it."
Yeah, maybe. Well, I've got two of my older kids have both worked with me as trade assistants, but
excellent.
Yeah, I don't know if they're going to take the leap into solar. I don't think they are.
Never know.
It's
early, but
yeah. My oldest son is doing engineering now.
Okay,
So he's
okay.
probably, who knows, he might end up doing PV engineering. Sure. I don't know, actually.
Sure.
But yeah, you're right. It's important to bring those young people through and upskill them best we can. Yeah, it's going to be best for all of our industry.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to go back to that, one of the challenges you had about getting people into the industry as educators. That's across the board, isn't it? Like you could do collaborations with other RTOs, right? Like you speak with them
to a degree. But I'd say that we probably pitch ourselves at a very different level to some of the other RTOs.
Well, it's just I understand that. It just seems to be something that is quite a common theme when I hear people from RTOs speak about it. They're all saying the same thing. Yeah,
so there are common challenges to the adult education sector, and it's no different with the plumbers and the carpenters and the and any of the other trades. I mean, with hospitality or anything else, there's just not enough people that want to step into a teaching role. And Australia needs them. Some of the workforce planning that we've been dealing with the Victorian government and other interest groups clearly shows that we need thousands of trainers across the TAFE system and the private sector in the coming years, and they are just not there, Pat.
Yeah. So do you reckon that's lowered the bar? Like, obviously, you've got a pretty high bar you've set. You make sure you get the right people. Yeah. Do you reckon that's lowered the bar across?
I'd probably get in trouble if I told you what I really think. So I'd say that, look, all I'd like to say is that at the Solar Training Centre, our bar is very high.
Yep.
And we don't compromise in any way.
Yep.
There's let me say it another way as well. Why do I get phone calls around Tuesday afternoon or Wednesday morning quite regularly saying, "Hey, Steve, we're walking out of this class. Can we come to yours?"
I've heard you mention that to me before.
How on earth can that happen? How can a class walk out?
Yeah.
Because the trainer knows less than the students.
Yeah.
Or the experience is such poor quality that the students question why are they spending so much money here? And that idea of that course was $500 cheaper, or it was only 3 days instead of 5.5 days. Well, there's a reason why, and that's not us.
That's extraordinary that's happening. Oh, look, it's the same with me. I don't try and be the cheapest inspector around. Yeah. I think if I do that, I'm going to be lowering the bar myself.
Absolutely,
and I could probably make money doing that, but I don't want to do that, and that's not. I don't feel like that's.
But you're dealing with compliance issues and safety issues and so on, and we're dealing with education. Why should education be lowered? As an industry, educators were highly valued throughout history, right back to ancient days.
Yep.
And I want our educators to be valued and to operate at a very high level.
Yep.
They are industry professionals. That team that I have, including Kaz and others around me, because Kaz and I are trainers as well. I perhaps didn't say that earlier, but we are trainers in our own disciplines.
Yep.
And we all train at a very high level. And that flows on back to the business that we run and the repeat business. So those students that you see once in a while at our place, some of them have come back 2, 3, and 4 times.
Yeah, right.
That's extraordinary.
That is.
Because they trust us with what we do.
Very good. That's a good story. It's slightly concerning for the rest of, not the rest of the industry, but that we still have training around there potentially where they're not getting what they paid for, or they're not getting the quality that they think they're getting. That's a bit concerning for the industry too.
Look, we have a regulator called ASQA, and the listeners might want to look up ASQA, ASQA.
Yep.
That is our regulator, the vet sector regulator.
Yep.
The Australian Schools Quality Authority.
You got it right.
I know it's a mouthful.
Yeah.
So they're our regulator,
Yep.
and they will only act on compliance matters if there's a student complaint. And Sparkies don't complain. They just say, "Oh, bugger this! I'm not going back there."
Yeah, I don't want to waste your time. Yeah.
And they don't complain. So, ASQA very rarely knocks on the door of the trade RTOs. but they knock on the door of some of the other business and hospitality RTOs.
Okay.
And in fact, they've closed down hundreds of RTOs over the last 5 years, as has the Victorian government, because. Pat, how we sometimes talk about, the dodgy installer? The dodgy installer.
Well, that's pretty much, I talk about that a lot, yeah.
Well, there are dodgy RTOs, mate, and they just get away with it. And unless the punters take the time to lodge a complaint with ASQA, the dodgy RTOs get away with it.
Yeah.
And that really irks me. Like I know dodgy solar guys irk you.
Yep.
And we want them out of the industry.
Yep.
And but only if you actually raise the complaint.
Yeah. So, have you got any suggestions? Like, it is what it is, right? They make a complaint, and then sometimes that might end up being some action might come out of it. But unless the complaint's made, we have zero happening.
Right. That's right.
What do you suggest?
So look. When I get these phone calls and when I talk to people in class about their previous experiences, if it was somewhere else, I can only say there is a process to follow.
Yep.
And thank you for telling me. But the process is you need to go to firstly the RTO that taught you.
Yep.
And raise the issue with them if they're around. And secondly, after that, you go to ASQA in a formal way, and the guys don't want to do it.
Yeah, of course I don't. Seems a bit reactive, doesn't it?
So the status quo remains. And so knowing that, my pledge and my pledge to the listeners who may come into our class, and every student that is in our class, is that we will do it to the highest level, and we will stick by you until you get your accreditation, and beyond that. You come back to us for advice. You come back to us for CPD, and you come back to us for the next course and the next course, because you know how we do it and you know what our commitment is. That's all you can do.
Yeah.
Sell the best hot dog, Pat. Just sell the best hot dog. Don't compromise on a hot dog.
Yeah, I suppose you're not going to. If you do sell the best hot dog, you're not going to be worrying too much about the people who've, are behind the tree throwing up because they bought the one that was the cheapest.
The $1 one. Yeah, that's right.
Can't worry about them, can you?
You didn't think we were going to talk about hot dogs, hey?
I didn't. Oh, it's some hard-hitting stuff in the training sector, that's for sure. All right, no worries. All right, Steve, we might go to our next ad break.
Good on you.
We've got some more stuff to talk about. So it will be another word from our sponsors, and we'll be back again in just a few moments.
Thank you.
Okay, and we're back. Thank you very much again to our sponsors. So, Steve, next things, we're going to talk about a few things in the industry which have been kind of happening. We usually do this at the end of the show, but I think there's a few pretty good discussions that some of it involves you, and be good to get your perspective as someone who's in the industry. So,
thanks, Pat.
First thing I want to mention is there's been some news, there's been some announcements from Solar Vic on funding for training. So do you know much about that?
Okay, sure. Yeah, thanks for the lead in, and I'll let you keep smashing those Tim Tams.
Oh, yeah, 3 in. Hopefully I don't get through the whole packet.
Thanks again, Pat. Look, Solar Vic has been incredibly supportive of our industry for many years now. I was on the ICRG for a period there as well, and really valued that time and the connections and the work that we were part of. Solar Vic has currently allocated some funding for accreditation in grid and battery.
Yep.
With our RTO, I think we're the only private RTO out of the 6 that have been nominated. The other 5 are TAFEs and NECA. We've been allocated some funding for a grid training in Ballarat. So there's some eligibility criteria. The training will take place in the beautiful city of Ballarat.
Yep.
And it is for grid design and install.
Yep.
And the people that will be eligible for that will come from the regions, and they must also be working with Solar Victoria under the Solar
Homes program.
So it's not available to everyone, blanketly, but there's certainly a lot of people in the Solar Homes program, and again, this shows that very strong commitment from Solar Homes Vic in supporting the industry, in building a capable workforce.
Yep.
They've allocated many millions of dollars over the years for workforce planning and development and upskilling. And I'm always absolutely proud to be part of their initiatives.
Yep.
And again, they trust us with the work that we do, Pat.
Yep.
They know that Solar Training Centre is not going to let them down.
Yeah, absolutely. So that part of that funding, so you guys are going to be delivering part of that training. You've been one of the RTO selected, is that
That's
right?
Yeah, one of 6.
Yep.
It's on their website.
Perfect.
And we will deliver that quite capably, and move on to the next thing. So. Now, Solar Vic has contributed so greatly to the industry.
Yeah.
And sometimes the installers grizzle about the mandatory training and the conditions and the requirements. But have a look at what SolarVic also does. I mean, there's 780,000 systems on offer over 10 years. There's extra rebates on solar PV, on heat pumps, on batteries, loans and interest-free loans and so on. No other state in Australia does what the Vics do.
Look, I don't think that many are complaining about it now. Like, honestly, I think that's what it was. That's what was happening, because it was such a big change, especially when you go back to sort of 2018 when SolarVic started.
Yeah,
it was just a huge shift in the way everyone did their business, and it was a massive disruption.
And it was needed. It was probably needed. And where some of those people, installers that don't want to be part of Victoria have gone. Yeah. They've gone to mess up the northern states.
Yeah.
And you spoke about this the other week as well at the expo, which we'll touch later.
Yeah.
But I think that, there's no agency like Solar Victoria in Australia. There just isn't. And I think they have really created a whole new value proposition for solar in Victoria. Helped clean up the workforce, helped develop the workforce, and the customers are the net beneficiaries of this. The mum and dads who are buying solar with confidence and with extra rebate, and it makes your job easier again as you go and inspect.
Well, I can tell you, after being in Brisbane last week, when you speak to people that are interstate about just the way things are in Victoria, we are like, they envy us and what we've got in Victoria. With the way we've got our mandatory inspections, with the way we've got Solar Vic keeping an eye on everything, and even if you go as far as where ESV are too.
Absolutely.
Some people are annoyed by it and they think it's an overreach. Look what it's done to the industry, though. We're in such a good place now, I think.
I don't know why safety would be an overreach. Why edge protection is an issue.
Yeah.
Just get it organised in your toolkit, guys.
Yeah.
Get it organised in your trailer. This ESV and WorkSafe, issued that statement last week where a contractor was fined $40,000 for, the third warning and the third offence and not having. I
didn't hear about that. Was that in Victoria? Was it?
Yeah, big one. Yeah, big one.
I'm going to get onto that.
$40,000. I think
solar installer, was it
in Geelong? Yeah. But you just don't need people taking that risk and that negligence, which can lead to death. And we want our workforce to be safe. And on the safety side, again, Solar Vic also funds Solar Training Centre to deliver work safely in the solar industry in the regions. So last year and this year we have and will present a number of training sessions throughout the regional cities. I love doing it with my offsider for Tarkus. We've kitted out the trailer, we've got all the gear, and the guys and girls come along to our training sessions and learn about an introduction to solar safety.
Yep.
And that sets them up for a journey of safety thinking and management and practice.
Yeah.
And I at my age, I'm glad that I can tell younger people about how to do their work better and more safe.
It's very interesting.
Thanks.
That's good. Do you reckon, just while we're still on Solar Vic, do you get other states around, do they have the same? Obviously, Solar Vic is setting the bar so high. Are there any other state government startups that are at a level where you can look to get funding or any of that sort of stuff? Like the way you do with Solar Vic? Obviously, they're not going to engage as much as Solar Vic. But are there any other state governments which have got the appetite for it?
Yeah. Look, in terms of funding, if that's the specific question, we have funding in other states through other mechanisms.
Okay.
In South Australia, the Construction Industry Training Board, or the CITB, funds training for the trades, and they have trusted us with funding for a number of years for solar installers.
Yep.
CSQ in Queensland, Construction Skills Queensland funds us for educating solar installers in Queensland.
Yep.
It doesn't come through a solar department as like it does in Victoria, but it comes through mechanisms of industry and government that fund reputable RTOs to deliver training and therefore give some funding to the student, a break to the student to come and do that qualification.
Okay, that's good. Well, I suppose so. They're helping out with that. Do they? The way they carry out their business is that they probably look to Victoria and go, "How are Victoria doing it?" Is that what they do?
I could be wrong.
Yeah.
But and I travel a lot. There is no agency like Solar Victoria, like Solar Homes Vic. So if that's what you're asking, look, the South Australians where I live, I've had a number of conversations with MPs and directors and so on. No, it doesn't exist. There are people that think solar and like solar, but there's nothing like
you don't have a department
what you see here.
No, you don't have a department.
Queensland, no. And look, if I ask you, how many inspectors are there interstate?
Yeah, well, they don't even have the qualification in other states.
So there you go. They're but there is room for catch up, and again, this is something that we've talked about. There's room for catch up.
Yeah.
There's room for the other states to start developing their solar proposition, their industry proposition, like Solar Homes Vic has. And I don't doubt that when Solar Vic speaks, some of those other public servants are probably listening in.
Hope so.
I hope so too. Yeah,
let's hope so. All right. Okay. Well,
that was a great plug for Solar Victoria, wasn't it?
It is. I'm a huge advocate for them.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
They've been so good for our industry, and they've really listened. And I think I've mentioned on this podcast before when we were going through the huge issues of basically the rebate stopped in 2018, 2019, and I reached out to our local member here, Sonia Kilkenny, and she gave me the time of day she gave me time to go in and see her, and I explained to her the situation from an industry person's point of view, and she listened and was really, really helpful. And they changed that. I mean, I don't know. I don't know what impact my conversation had. Probably just a little small one. But they ended up changing that rebate, and it really helped the industry. And look where we are now.
And look, if you're mentioning MPs, we have to mention Lily D'Ambrosio as well, MP across the other side of town, who's been so passionate with supporting our sector and supporting Solar Homes Victoria. So when you find MPs and politicians who are aligned to your industry, good things happen. Now, we've got to mention the MP that we listened to in Queensland last week.
I'm going to get to that. I'm going to get to that in a minute. I'm going to get to that in a minute. Let's go. Let's go through a couple of other things first.
All right. Okay.
I definitely want to get to that. So, other news in the industry this week.
Yep.
Not sure how much it's going to affect a lot of people, but it's certainly quite big news. So, the team at Catch Power have acquired Solar Analytics.
Yeah.
So that's been a pretty big thing that's been spoken about on social media.
Very good.
So that's going to be interesting to see what happens with that. They're two companies that are both Australian companies, I think. So that's good. Catch Power does hardware, Solar Analytics does software.
So look, an industry collaboration. Opposite ends of the market, very well known in their own rights, have come together, and trying to create something bigger than the individual parts.
Yeah,
and that's a common story around us. So congratulations to the management teams and the staff that are part of the new entity. And I'm sure they'll continue to serve our industry at a very high level.
Absolutely. All right. Well, it's funny. I actually thought some of the people who work at both those organisations, if you'd have told me that they'd merged 2 years ago, I think you probably wouldn't surprise too many. I think they do a lot of stuff together anyway, and so it's probably a match made in heaven. But
2 years in solar is a really long time, Pat.
Yeah, for sure. All right, so that was that. The other thing I wanted to mention was I've been giving a little bit of an update on CPD course applications I did for accreditation for CPD. And first time I'd had a bit of a whinge because they hadn't opened up the training. Part of the transition, they didn't open the applications. I think I announced last week that they had opened them, which was great. And proud to announce now that they approved our first course.
Fantastic.
Which is great. And I must say that process was very quick. It was very precise. Look, I couldn't have been much better, to be honest. So definitely want to give a plug to SAA for that.
For sure.
They've been copping it a little bit lately, again, I think it's the people that yell out about these things are the ones who do get on social media or whatever it is, and that's how they express their frustration.
Yeah.
And look, they've been reacting as good as you could want. So I want to shout out to the people at SAA. Well done on that. And there's going to be a lot of challenges for all of you moving forward. It's a huge transition, which I think is coming towards the end. We've got a few weeks, I think, until the transition is completed.
The date, yes.
And the CEC, I won't say they won't be relevant any longer because that's not the truth, because they've still got their place in the industry, but they're not going to be the holders of the accreditation program. No.
And look, I mean, for whatever reason, the installers now have an opportunity to embrace SAA. Our SAA will settle into its role as well. That there's it's understandable when you have this huge influx of new members and phone calls and emails and applications that there could be a degree of frustration, but it will settle down and they will get on with what they're charged to do. And remember, there's two really strong organisations behind them, Master Electricians and the Smart Energy Council. John Grimes is incredible with what he does and with his team, with Wayne and others. I have absolute faith and confidence in what they're able to do. Remember also, Pat, that our industry thrives on CPD. Now, you've taken your first step into developing and presenting a CPD package, and I hope that goes really well for you.
No, thank you.
May it be the start of many more. And that's also what we do as well. And it's part of the licensing conditions, the 100 points or so each year. And we'll give the guys and girls a good reason to tune into our CPD sessions and learn something more.
Absolutely. Yeah, for sure. Well, it's with CPD, I think a lot of it's based around products, and a lot of it's based around most companies have got CPD out there. It's, whether it's specific product training, some of it can be very salesy, I think. So we've tried to look at the technical. We're trying to make it as technical as possible and have as least amount of sales pitches in there, which I don't think there's any.
Gee, do you remember the beer and pizza nights that went just towards beer and pizza and nothing else?
Yeah, I do. Well, look, to be honest though, that's better than nothing. At least, but I think the idea of CPD is for everyone to get together and engage in the industry. Now, there's different levels of what the engagement's like, or what the training's like, or what the learning outcomes are going to be. There's going to be different levels.
Look, I think we've matured in the CPD presentations, but let me tell you, I still have a giggle with this certificate that I got for attending a session in Adelaide. I won't mention who it was. It's many years ago. Everyone who attended became an accredited installer. And so I became an accredited installer just for attending a beer and pizza night.
There you go.
At a hotel.
Hopefully we have come a fair way.
Yes, we have. Yes, we have.
Yeah. All right. So again, major plug to SAA. Well done, everyone. You cop it, and you definitely deserve kudos for that. So thank you. Thank you very much. All right. So the other thing we want to have a chat about, probably one of the last things we talk about, but I think we'll put a little bit of time into it. Let's have a little bit of a review of the Solar and Storage Live event in Brisbane, which was last week. So I've been giving it a bit of a plug on this podcast, been talking about it a little bit. I think it was quite a good event. now I've sort of had a week or so to reflect on it. I think it's been there was some good people in the industry there. There were some really good sessions.
Yeah.
One of the sessions we were in together.
We presented jointly.
You chaired the session. Yeah, we spoke with a few.
Sure.
There was there's some people in the industry.
Solar Set and
Yep.
Lydium
Yep.
as well, and
Yep.
yourself.
Yeah.
And Eddie Springer
From
Springers. Yeah.
Yeah, of course. I would have liked that session to be a little bit longer, personally, but that's just me.
That's all right.
I think I don't know, like there was a lot. There's so much to cover in this industry.
So much to cover, and
Yeah.
you know, we're all talkers, and we know our industry very well.
Yeah.
And so yes, there was a lot to be said, and we only had a limited time. We had a great audience, which I was really happy with because you know, you don't know how it's going to go.
Yeah.
I saw some sessions there with only 10 people, and I think we had about 80 plus in our audience. So
I thought that was quite a good number too.
It was very good. I mean, it looked full. You know, it
Yeah.
looked full. Interesting expo, first time.
Yeah.
Done by a private company, and it was done in Brisbane. So I think the turnout was very strong. I mean, there were a lot of exhibitors. There was a lot of punters walking around and having a look and a tyre kick and so on. And there was so much content. There was, there was about 6 stages, wasn't there, or something?
Yeah, I think it was 5 or 6, something like that.
Yeah,
There's a lot.
I think there were 6 stages, and some audiences like ours were all kitted out with headphones.
Yeah, so I just want to touch on this. What do you think of the silent disco type setup? Like we've got headphones on now, and they don't light up like the ones that we had in the.
That was really weird. I'd never actually presented to a large audience that was totally silent.
Just let everyone know. So what it was is normally you go to these sessions and you will have theatres. There'll be multiple theatres when you go to, like, whether it's all energy or smart energy. There's usually multiple theatres, and they're on opposite sides of the conference to each other, so you can't hear the other one.
Yeah,
because it is quite loud with the microphone, and they've got all their amplifications. These ones were set up 3 or 4 in a row together, and there was no audible noise coming out of any speakers. So all it was is just the presenters talking, and they were talking into the microphone, which would then transmit into headphones, which
was totally silent.
That's right.
Around you.
Yeah.
And we got used to it, but it was unusual. Hey,
I found it really, really good as an audience member. So as a couple of the sessions I sat in on, the sound quality was great. It's as good as we can hear each other now. It was really, really good. I found it a little difficult in the session when we spoke. Like, I was okay because we were just having a conversation, and I was able to adapt to it. I probably was one of the ones who wanted to have the headphones as the speakers, but I think there was a couple of members on the panel who didn't want that, and I was okay with that.
Yeah. Look, it was a new way to do it for many people, and it worked. And yes, they had 5 or 6 stages going at the same time, and maybe using some new technology doesn't hurt in the scheme of things. Interesting expo. I think it was well run. I think it gave a new dynamic to the solar sector for Brisbane.
Yeah,
because they miss out on all energy, they miss out on smart energy as major expos.
Yep.
And I don't see any harm in expanding the major expos. Maybe we'll see one in Adelaide too one day, along the same lines. But wasn't there? There was $1 billion of business there.
I know where you're going.
I know you know where I'm going. So let's just be careful with the politics of the moment. But wasn't it extraordinary to listen to an opposition minister denigrate?
So was this the plenary session at the start?
This was the first morning
opening session.
Yeah, and up stand a number of people who were very supportive of the solar sector and congratulating the organisers and the participants and the exhibitors, and up steps a minister, a Liberal National Party minister who denigrates our industry in front of the audience and says it's all about nuclear and loses the people, and people start walking out.
There was walkouts, wasn't there?
Oh, there was heaps of walkouts, and there was some bloke called Steve who heckled. I can't remember exactly what he said. There's some bloke there.
Not you.
No, not me. No. I was dumbfounded. I was absolutely dumbfounded that you could not see the $1 billion of business 25 metres away. You couldn't smell it. You couldn't see it. And here you are on stage. Here's someone on stage total unknown, denigrating our industry. And you think, 2024, we still can't cut through with support from both of the major parties. Why is solar a political issue?
Why are we having these conversations?
Why is climate change a political issue? Why is energy efficiency or cost of living? Why is it a political issue? It was so disappointing, but we got over him pretty quickly.
Yeah.
And got on with it.
Yeah, he probably got. I mean, I almost feel bad talking about it now because we're giving it airtime a little bit.
Yeah, I know.
But it's still like it needs to be called out. I think you can read the room, mate. Like, come on.
Renew Economy wrote about it.
Yeah,
it's been spread around, and yeah, look, the rest of the expo was fantastic. We got on with it, and there were lots and lots of MPs and industry leaders and organisational leaders who supported everything about it, and they're the ones we really should focus on.
Most definitely. Well, I noticed I ran into multiple people who are from Solarvic.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah.
This is at a Queensland a conference, which wasn't quite dedicated to Queensland, but it was, it was focused in and around the Queensland industry.
Yes.
And people from Solarvic were up there looking at what's happening, engaging.
Stan, the CEO.
Stan was one of them.
Gave a great presentation. He's very accomplished in his presentations, of course, and had a great audience. Yep. So it's great that they were listening to us from down here. Absolutely,
for sure. Well, looks like that's that they're going to go again with next year. What do you think of the DJ at the front? That's a bit much, you reckon? I don't know. I'm not sure.
There was a DJ and some dancing people.
Like that's.
Look, I know it's just another angle, but
who's that bringing in? I'm
not sure, but look. There was lots of free coffee to compensate.
Yeah.
Look, again, the organisers go a certain way, to try and differentiate. We focused on the exhibitors, the industry education, and it was great to see colleagues from all around our collaboration partner network, and also some new products there as well.
Yeah.
And that's what makes a good expo.
Yeah, well, of course, I did my usual thing and just started banging on about mandatory inspections, and I was talking about how they're not there in Queensland. That's it. Like,
go get them.
I had multiple conversations with multiple people about it. Last podcast I had with Mark Kavanagh, we spoke about it pretty extensively.
Yeah.
I don't know. Lift your game, ESO. They really need to bring him in as well. I've written blogs about New South Wales fair trading, how they haven't brought them in. So I've sort of gone pretty hard at New South Wales in the past, and I feel the same about Queensland. They're in the same boat. I just don't understand how they don't do it.
Look, we tell our classes, our students in Queensland and elsewhere, that this is how we do it in Victoria, and they can't believe it. They just can't believe that all the jobs are inspected, that there's mandatory training, that there is mandatory safety requirements.
Yep.
They go, why? And you shake your head, and all I say is it's coming. Get your head around it because it's going to come.
Yeah, I hope it does.
And I hope it does, Pat. And you have a role in this.
Yeah.
You are one of the industry leaders in compliance and safety, and you have a role. And I'll support you every inch of the way. Yeah.
No, thank you very much for that. I feel like I'm ringing the right bell. Like I think it really needs to happen. I don't know what it's going to take. I don't know. I'm not much of a lobbyist or anything. I don't know what it's going to take to get other states to be able to do it. But there's certainly the appetite amongst the installation community to have it there. There's people that want it. They know they'll make their life a little bit more difficult, but they also know that it's going to cut out a lot of the crap, and that's going to be good for their business.
Yeah.
So,
look, Pat, we hope what it takes is forward-thinking leaders of government and industry, and we hope it doesn't take an injury or a death to
Someone else mentioned this. Usually I've said this, right? And I don't like to alarm people, but someone else said that to me. They said, let's not wait until we get the recommendations from a coroner's inquest as to there's been a death in the industry or whatever from solar. Let's not wait until then.
Correct.
Let's be more proactive.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to be in like 4 or 5 years' time looking back on this podcast and saying, The evidence is there. It's all in front of us. Like, what? Why didn't they do it? These people didn't need to die, or whatever it is. We don't want that. Let's do something now.
Look, I'm thinking back to a very sad moment where we lost a student, a very capable student in the NT through a car accident because he fell asleep at the wheel. And that could be considered a safety issue after a very, very long working day. And the impact that had on his family, his network, on us in our business, because we valued him so much. I never ever want anyone to go through something like that again, whether it's a fall from a roof or a fall through a commercial skylights or whatever it may be. We've got to be absolutely vigilant for safety and compliance.
Yep.
We want the customer to be absolutely confident with their install, that they got what they paid for. And Pat, you and I have a role in this.
Yep, absolutely. All right.
There you go.
Well, that's good. All right. Well, we're going to wrap up, and
I think it's
yeah, for sure. I think it's really important. We've just spoken about something a little bit somber. I think it's really important to finish on a positive note, Steve. So,
thank you. All right.
We're going to wrap up in a minute. Do you have any closing remarks you would like to share with our listeners?
Look, I would say, firstly, thank you for having me on board and allowing me to talk about the education component, our own business, and broadly about the sector, plus some other side experiences. So thank you very much, Pat, and all the best with your podcast. They're extraordinary, and I really appreciate this opportunity. I think people perhaps have understood my commitment to education. Education, yes, it's my business, but it's a commitment, and I will not diminish that in any way, shape or form. And I thank everyone that comes to our training centres for their tickets and for their further development. This industry is one that I love. I didn't say earlier, but I first kicked a solar panel in the late 70s at Adelaide University. And it's taken 45 years to get to this point of acceptance in the community, where solar has a momentum of nearly 4 million houses today, and the same will happen with batteries, and the same will happen with EVs. And so I'm in an industry that I love. I have really found my spot, and I'll work here until I'm finished. This industry is unstoppable. Solar is unstoppable. There's no doubt about it. It needs to be done right. You need to get your business organised, because it's a tough business, but you need to get your business organised. You need to think about everything you do every day, and not take it for granted. Don't hurt this industry. The people that hurt this industry have no place in it. The people who support this industry, all the power to them. And I really, I'll support anyone that wants to do it right in this industry. I'm going to finish on a really silly note. When I went to to infant school a very long time ago, Pat, I couldn't speak English. I was born in Australia, and I couldn't speak English. I went to Grange Infant, and all these people were speaking this foreign language. And I thought, what on earth's going on here? Because I grew up in a little enclave in the bush of Grange, and we only spoke Macedonian. And I went to school not being able to speak English. So I had to learn English at 6 years of age, which was a scream. I learnt it in an instant. And so I'm going to finish by saying a couple of words in Macedonian, which is a very ancient language. And it goes like this. And Pat, danes se najdeme ovde vo Radio Karam. So Stefan и со Пет изборвавме за секој работи Solar и мислам за сите најдобро. So all I said was thanks, Pat, for having me at Radio Karam, and may everyone in solar do well. I thank you very much, and thank you. I'm having a giggle on the way out.
Thanks. That's quite insightful. I appreciate those words. Thank you very, very much, Steve.
This might go all the way to Radio Europe.
You never know. You never know. Well, it can be. Some podcast, we can send the podcast anywhere you like. So thanks very much for that, Steve. I really appreciate you coming. It's been a really great chat. Another quite engaging episode again. I do these podcasts now, and I get surprised every time. And you haven't fallen short of that, Steve. So thanks very much.
Thanks, listeners. Thank
you very much, listeners. That's the end of the show, and we'll see you next time on Solar Sidekicks. Thanks, everyone.
Bye.